Represents Policy and Committee meeting. Today, I'll let you know that this board meeting, or a reminder that this meeting is being recorded. If you would like to speak, please state your name and where you live, just generally in the district. And there will be for those people online, if you put your comments or questions in the chat, please keep them related to the agenda as we are speaking. And there was originally the policy, remind me the number, or minute.
It was an AR 254.
Yes, sir, thank you. AR 254 that was on the agenda regarding devices. That is being pulled because we've decided that the conversation should start in the CCOB. But other than that, we'll be starting with our first reading for review, which is policy 125. Ms. Schaefer, would you like to?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And I'd just like to recognize Melanie's leadership of the policy committee over these last couple years, and certainly her participation well before that. And so you will be missed. And but enjoy your free time on Friday mornings every month.
Yeah, I think it's been 10 years I've been coming to policy.
Oh, that's true. I know you've been here for enjoying this conversation for a long time. So, and hopefully you'll still come by once in a while. And as far as future meetings in this moment of transition, administratively, we've talked about sort of reestablishing our routines in terms of addressing policies by series numbers. So our proposed next step is, once we clear out this queue, is to begin with the 0 series, and then as needed, update if there are policies that are required to be updated, or there's special circumstances, as we've always done, bring those to the forefront as well. So that would be sort of our anticipated path, subject to the next policy co-chair's input on that. So just wanted to give you that update. And then, as Melanie mentioned, the device conversation, which we know is a big one, both for in school and out of school. We've had our off and away rules in our buildings, and then also taking a look at how we deliver instruction on devices and what should that look like. So I'm excited to listen to the presentation on Monday evening at the curriculum committee meeting. So I encourage people that are looking to learn more about that to tune in either in person or virtually. And again, back to the top of our agenda is policy 125, summer programs. We reviewed this at last month's meeting, and based on the feedback we received, just like the device conversation, we referred our audience to tune into the CCOB meeting where our summer programs were showcased and explained in terms of what they look like, who participates, and duration, things like that, so that we could come back to this meeting with a little more information. In the meantime, based on the initial feedback we got, we tried to incorporate some of those recommendations or ideas into this draft. This is not time sensitive, so if today we still, and of course we don't have a quorum yet, but if today we still want to keep it at first read, again, there's no rush to move this forward. So you can see, I hope, that the revisions that were made. I would also add that on page 2, I intended and did not do on item 4 to strike 8th grade and add middle and high school to clarify that summer orientation programs could be more expansive than just 8th grade. So that's the other just addition from the floor I would include.
Abby, did you have anything?
No, that was actually the only question I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and actually I have no questions on that. Do we officially have, I thought we officially had 3 members of this committee, or do we have 4? Is it 4? Okay.
And all committees need 4 because otherwise, anytime 2 of you talked about policy, it would be violating sunshine.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Thank you. Yeah, I'm leaving now, so I'm doing that coordinating. Okay, thank you. So anything we make today will be a recommendation, but not a decision. So the way we present it at the meeting will.
It's a recommendation of the board members present at the policy committee meeting.
I'm writing that down.
It can still go consent, though, so.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
All right,
So for, as community managers, do you have any questions on this? No? Okay. So for us present, are we okay with it?
Yes.
We are, the present people are okay. Okay, next is the enrollment of students.
Yeah, so this item, I think I talk about it sort of broadly with also item C and the for discussion item, assignment of students. So last time in October, we provided sort of an overview of the enrollment process, the registration process, and residency. And so these 3 policies reflect that process, and 206 has been added as, it has a couple of ARs associated with it, but it's also how we then assign students to their schools. Which is based on their residency, unless there's a programmatic need that's determined by an IEP process. So we do have some specialized programs in our buildings that would dictate an assignment outside of their home school. The other situation where a student may be assigned outside of their home school feeder pattern is when we have reached a capacity number, which is the partner school plan, and a student is assigned to a partner school so that we maintain the capacity that we're targeting in either the elementary schools, which has been happening for a number of years, and then more recently high school because of those capacity numbers that we have at the high school level. So thought it was important to put those 2 together. Also to note that policy 206 does have a provision that indicates that the board should review it every 5 years. And so we're, while we're past due, we have since that time been looking at the ARs that are associated with 206. So it has come up in conversation at the AR level. So going back to 200, though, in terms of getting more into the weeds, we don't have any proposed changes except for one that's not indicated in the packet, but I'll ask Ken. One of the questions that we get is under the definitions, the district of residence, and how the term reside is sort of defined by law. So Ken's proposed, because I've asked that we clarify that a bit, because that comes up from time to time in our process, that we just add a phrase to that particular definition.
Yep, some, basically, just as determined by Pennsylvania law. As determined by Pennsylvania law, that way, because that's what we're doing now, but this will make it a little more transparent, and then you could even, if you needed it, you could do an AR that basically said, here are the criteria that are used for residency under current Pennsylvania law, and if the law changed, you could just amend the reg without having to go back to the policy. So you could probably, I should say, if you don't want to go through the amendment process for this, just to do that, add that phrase, you could simply just do an AR that said residency as used in the policy means the following. That way you wouldn't have to go through a first and second reading just to add that sentence.
Okay.
So that's probably easier.
Well, if we've been moving definitions to the AR, should we be doing that here at this point if we're looking at this? Or is this one where we'll keep it in the keep it in the policy?
I guess the question becomes is, do you want to put this up for amendment? I mean, there's no reason, there's nothing motivating an amendment to this policy. So what we historically, I think, have done is when we were amending a policy anyway, and then said, hey, wouldn't it be better to just put all the definitions in the AR? Use that opportunity, but rather than just basically taking a policy that has been on the books since, 2017 at least, that doesn't really need any substantive changes. If do you want to put it out there for amendment? That's all. It's up to you.
I just want to, sorry to interrupt you. I just want to clarify. So you, the question or the topic that we're talking about is to clarify what reside means, right?
Correct.
Why wouldn't we just follow, like, what is the downside of saying as per the state guidelines or as to, yeah.
There's no downside to doing it other than you are now taking this policy and having to, putting it on the policy, putting it on the board agenda for a first reading, putting it on for a second reading, and I'm simply saying you accomplish the same thing by simply having an AR
In the
that
AR.
says what what residence means.
Okay.
And that's because you didn't substitute.
Oh, it's a
Say it again?
well, okay. Now, I guess
was the
Megan
question?
asked the question whether this would be considered a substantive change that would need to go to the board. I mean, I could make the argument that it isn't. I mean, it's what we're doing already. We're not changing anything, so.
We're just making a reference, aren't we?
Yeah.
Adding a reference, so.
I-
Which,
Okay, okay.
Have we done it in other policies? Like,
Yes, we have changed job titles, we've corrected grammar, we've done things, and those are non-substantive changes. I think in this case, if you just added the words as determined by Pennsylvania law, and then did
like a footnote?
there's already a cross-reference.
A cross-reference.
Yeah,
to
there's a
Pennsylvania law.
I mean,
So-
and I actually brought that one with residency in it with me for some reason today. And it says it's non-exhaustive, so gives leeway to districts to define what proves residency. So I'm wondering if the definition of residency gives us that leeway to, like, in our policies, or is that why we have to
No, we don't really have any leeway.
No, okay.
No, residency is defined by law.
define?
By case law. It's not very clear case law all the time, but it is defined by case law. I think, all right, rolling on getting back in, yeah, I think it's fine to just add the words as determined by Pennsylvania law, and then when you do your policy committee report, you basically say we made a non-substantive change, and then you don't have to go through the first reading adoption process, so.
That makes sense to me.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
So I would say the two of us, present, unless, does any
Recommend.
questions from, do you have a question? Okay. Okay. Okay, if you can state your name and where you live in the district.
My name is Julianne Rollins, and I live in Bala Cynwyd. So as far as residency, I see here also notations about registering homeless students and those in the ACP program. And as somebody who has advocated for enrollment for students whose parents are in circumstances related to that, including moving into the district in those circumstances, I can tell you that regardless of what this policy says, and in fact, in part because of how vague it is, that has been prohibitive, and at least some of the students that I've advocated for have ended up needing to go into private school, which is not great for students who are already in precarious living situations. So when we're saying to be super vague about residency requirements, I think at the very least, the policy needs to include that there is a level of instructiveness for the staff who is answering these questions, and a process for students and parents to be referred through.
And I think having an AR that defines residency will accomplish what the speaker's asking for.
So are you saying, do we need to change paths now, are you saying, based
No,
upon this?
no.
Or this should accomplish what
This makes it clear what you're using for a residency definition, and then we'll develop an AR that encapsulates what the current law is on residency which I think addresses the speaker's concern.
It does address your concern? I just want to
To an
clarify.
extent- Yeah, I think so. I guess my concern is that there should be, it's very vague here, it's very vague for staff, because as we're asking here, well, do we have outlined what the law is? And the access to that information and education is not easily available in a comprehensive and in a comprehensive way that is actually usable for people who are going through circumstances, or answering questions for people who are going through circumstances, which I think even under regular circumstances of moving and dealing with, closing and all of that is stressful. But as you can imagine, when not really sure because of various programs and the way they interact, if things are scattered, it really does need to be addressed more thoroughly.
Is that something we need to add to the AR, or is that something that can be done behind this as a workflow or a SOP or
Well, the AR is the SOP kind of.
AR is the SOP, okay. to
Yeah,
that
no,
level,
I think,
okay.
Then I think it
exactly what
addresses it.
the speaker is saying. I think that's how we'll craft the AR. We'll make the AR very user-friendly for staff and for residents, and so that people can actually look and see this is all very transparent. We now know what the criteria are being used.
Thank you.
Can I, as a follow-up, thank you, you can sit down. Can we have once this is sort of workshopped, can we have brought it back for just informational reading? That'd be great. That AR.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just as a matter of practice, we always bring the AR back if we're making revisions, so that we don't do that behind the scenes without notifying the policy committee, even though you don't have to take action on it.
Also, can you repeat your name? I'm sorry, I missed it.
Julianne Rollins.
Thank you.
I really missed your last name. Thanks. Okay, thank you.
Give you the spelling after too.
Thanks. Okay, so we're good to move the policy forward with the reference from the AR back to residents. And then the AR will come back with the additions. Okay. So we'll continue with this non-substantial change. Okay. Substantive. Thank you.
So if there's any, we'll bring the AR 200 back and address what we discussed today. If there's any other questions about that, you'll have an opportunity, if you don't have them now, we can discuss them at that time. So, okay to move on to 202?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, I think we're okay.
So 202 is the policy on non-resident students, which provides, basically we just talked about what you need to do to establish residency, and that you need to be a resident. And there are limited circumstances where non-resident students may be enrolled in the district, and this policy provides for what that looks like, as well as the AR, which again explains our process that occurs if there is a situation that doesn't fall under one of those exceptions where a student or students are believed not to be residents or no longer residents of the district, and the steps that we take to ensure that we meet all the due process requirements under law to establish one way or the other if a student is in fact maintaining residency in the district. And as I shared last month, this isn't a process that we take lightly. Our intent and goal is to ensure that our students and verify that they are residents. We want to, even through this process, foster a sense of belonging, knowing that decisions that adults make that impact children, we need to make sure that the students, to the best of our ability, aren't feeling the impact of any type of investigation that we do into residencies to the extent possible. So again, we do not take these lightly and proceed as sensitively as we can in these cases. We're not proposing a change other than we've added, and I'll ask Ken to provide sort of a background on the 202-1, which is a new proposed piece of the AR to provide a little more clarification on specific situation.
Yeah, just to kind of put this in context, there's 3 ways to establish residency. You can establish residency where your parent or guardian live, and actually 2, parent lives where your guardian lives, or based on, it's page 18. Or you could use something called a support gratis affidavit, which is basically where a student lives with a district resident who's supporting the student without any compensation. This is a specific carve-out in the public school code. So basically what it means is, okay, you're no longer living with your parents are no longer financially responsible for you, this other family configuration or whatever is now agreeing to do that. So they have to take an affidavit saying all this. They also assume to some extent educational decisions for the child. They can be, if the parent could come in and say, I want to reassert my right to be the educational decision maker for my child. But if the parent's not a resident, that may jeopardize the student's ability to continue to attend the school, because that's now saying, okay, then this affidavit isn't really valid anymore. So there's a whole process by which this is as I said, it's recognized by law. Regrettably, not just Lower Merion, but in many places, it has been kind of misused as a way to sort of district shop in some ways. Other ways, other circumstances are much more, unfortunate, and then the fact that for reasons beyond anybody's control, the student can't live with the parents, and that's not always a good circumstance. But as I said, sometimes it has been abused, so there's all these safeguards put in place.
Off the top of my head, I know we're making a point of saying it's they're not being paid to look after the student. I mean, I know as a there's also the kids in foster care that's different. That's different.
Yeah.
And but is this so that a parent can't pay somebody to say, hey, I want my kid in this district, so I'm going to I can't pay you, and so there shouldn't be. And do we need to broaden that if that is the case? Why we're saying that to more of any of a general term of is payment a general enough term that it could be in money or other forms? Is what I'm saying.
We actually do have it parsed out, I think, pretty well, not only in the policy, but in the affidavit. Mm-hmm. And we also make it very clear, you can't do this just for the purpose of attending the school district. It basically has to be a circumstance that is happening independent of school. So that's, there have been times when, not just here, other places, where people say, okay, I want my child to go to this high school, whatever, so I'm going to have them live with these other people, and and it's like, no, that's not what this is for. This is for students who, for no control of their own, end up somewhere else, and so now they are entitled to go to school where they've ended up through no fault of their own.
It looks like this is it has to be done annually it expires June 30th of each year, is that correct?
Yes. I mean, they have to be reviewed annually. That doesn't mean they get rescinded annually.
I just wanted to add the context because, we're trying to build in some clarity on both ends of this so that we make sure that we're sort of being compliant, but also meeting the needs of the students involved. Oftentimes with these cases, a social worker is involved, and we have a social worker that's co-located with our registration office on, intentionally, so that we can make sure that there's a level of support that's being provided and that these situations and circumstances are sort of shared and known, so the requisite support is given.
I have a question that you kind of answered, but I just want to clarify it. So in terms of who does the actual sort of review, the annual review, is that a social worker? Who does that?
It goes through our registration office, so that we have someone that is designated to review all of our support gratis and multiple occupancy, and that process starts early in the spring as reminders. This is, what we need to do, and so it's an involved process to follow up with, but at times the social worker does get involved in helping support that.
And there's a designated person?
Correct.
Okay.
That's not her only job. It's just one of her duties.
Because one of the other terms that's in other kind of related policies is residency officer or something like that, and I'm just clarifying if we have someone in that role. We do. Okay. Hi. Okay. Thank you.
Would you like to?
Sure. There's a question online from Juanita Kerber of Ardmore. Community members have reported that if residency has been determined, established, and completed for multiple unit residents, and that family has continued to live in their same apartment, why would residents need to go through the same process yearly?
And that is a question that we've received and know that is on the minds of some residents as well. And we have in the policy, or the AR, it speaks to periodic review of both multiple occupancy and support gratis situations. Since I've been here, it's been an annual process. And that was the established cadence of that review. Obviously, because of the language, it could be less frequent or more frequent. That's just been how it's been handled since I've been here. So if we wanted to make it more or less specific, or more specific, that's something we could.
Or less frequent.
Or less frequent, sorry. Thank you. We certainly can discuss that here.
Well, looking at other districts, seems like multi-unit is typically an annual review. So unless, is there an administrative reason that, or anything, like, do we have many in the district that we do need to review annually? I don't need a number, I just mean, like, is it a?
I mean, it's not a large number that are part of that process. I think Ken was going to jump in, and he certainly can confirm or what his experience is, but we have reached out in terms of that specific question, and most districts are on an annual, are using the same process we are in terms of that annual review standard. That's our understanding.
And that's been my experience in other districts, is it's typically annual for both.
Oh, I was reading the new policy, and I'm seeing reference to I keep losing the page, sorry. I see a reference to the USC, 45 USC section 113041, but do we need to reference the enrollment of students policy at the state level as well? 24 PS 13-1301 to 1306?
Sorry, where are you?
I'm in I'm not seeing, at least I'm not getting to the. Page 18. Yeah, page 18. Is it?
Oh, yeah, we could add the cross-references.
Yeah, because it does go through that type of stuff in that state policy. It's state legislation as well. Do you have any further questions? Okay, I'm good. Any questions from community here? Okay, thanks. Okay, so where are we? So this was just encompassed as part of the 202, so this for first reading. So are we, as our chief, are we okay to, we're okay, so the two of us would recommend moving it forward unless, is there anything further that you,
Is there, I don't think we changed the policy, did we?
I believe it was
Yeah,
regarding
so-
202-1, or is it?
That's a reg.
Yeah. mhm.
So you don't need to
Oh,
do
that's a reg.
anything.
Oh, okay,
You
sorry.
simply note that there was a review of 200, or 202.
Okay, we'll just note that there's a 200.
Yeah, just note there was a review, so we can mark it reviewed.
Okay.
And when you're, in the context of your report, you perhaps should mention that we're going to be bringing 202 back, since I think one of the policy committee members has said she wanted to review, wanted to talk about it, so might want to mention that, so.
Okay, we'll bring it back. So that should be at the next meeting on, in December?
No, you're November,
We're in November. December, the next meeting would be in December.
no, your next board meeting is in November, correct?
Is that for November's board meeting?
No. In your November, when you go to the November board meeting, you'll do a policy committee report.
Right, and in my report, I was asking whether, was saying we'll bring it back to the December meeting.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, understood.
Yes. Okay. Okay, moving along. What is next? Are we assignment of students in the,
Yeah, so we're going to talk about 206, which is under discussion, together with 206-4. In your packet, it is the first one that comes up, the AR, which is on page 23. Annually, we review this to share, and our plan will be, and then we do this usually in November, and then have a recommended plan for the following year in December, as we historically have a demographer report coming out around this time, so we kind of track or align our recommendations to that report. We have a pretty good sense of where we'll be because our enrollment has been a little more stable in terms of that recommended plan, which will likely be a continuation of the partner schooling at the elementary level and a limited amount of partner schooling at the high school level, probably likely at the upper grades at this point, but we will clarify that so that it's very similar to what's in place now. We'll just update that. So we would be recommending, as far as this AR, that we maintain the status quo as it's written. And then, again, we'll have a chance to look at that together with the plan that we'll be presenting in December. So more or less, this is a heads up on that item and what I expect we'll be sharing with you in December. And then as far as 206 goes, as I mentioned at the beginning, this is one that needs review every so often. It covers things such as attendance area exceptions and the superintendent's responsibility to create ARs, which there are 4 associated ARs with this particular policy, and they are also attached for your review. 206-1, the first AR articulates the attendance areas, so if you want to, it's really hard to understand without a map, but it does describe the specific boundaries for each of our schools, as well as what is known as the high school choice area, which is on page 9. There was also a provision that I think was incorporated in 2014, which is the superintendent's authority to assign new residential communities to a particular attendance area. So at a time when we were seeing a lot of growth in the district, particularly around multi-unit apartments and complexes, that we worried that an influx of families in a particular high-density complex might overwhelm a school. So kind of trying to track, where a better location may be to accommodate students in terms of a homeschool assignment. We haven't had to use that, but that's why it's there. And I'm certain that should we ever think that was about to happen, we would be having conversations about that with our public. So that's that piece. The second AR on page 38, 206-2, refers to attendance area exceptions, which we went through pretty thoroughly back in 2021, made some adjustments to that process at that time. Again, not recommending any adjustments, just giving you kind of a orientation to all of this. And then some on 206-3, which is a, sort of special circumstance situations that back in 2008 became its own AR before my time. I will note for the record. But we did review in 2014 what that looks like. So, and then again, back to the 206-4, which is the partner school AR. We're not recommending changes. Again, we were wanting to make sure that the board had an opportunity to review and ask questions, and then if the board had any changes, we could discuss.
I currently, I know this has had substantial, or I should say substantive discussions in the past and reviewing, maybe not all sections together, but certain sections. So I really don't have any changes to this currently. Abby, do you have any questions?
I just have questions, not changes. In the regulation for 206-4, what are class size targets? Like, what are the actual guidelines or expectations? Because it's unclear.
Yeah, we've, I think previously presented them maybe in CCOB, but they're sort of vary by grade level, beginning at kindergarten, the target 21 to 22, I don't have them off the top of my head, but it goes up from there, usually by 1 or 2 students by grade level, up to, in 4th, 5th grade, 25 to 26. And, I think because I personally am pretty involved in that it gets connected to facility needs as well as staffing, and we're watching that closely as soon as registration opens, that we're very, I think, good at maintaining those sizes across the district. I would say it's rare that we go above that, but there are some times when that's a need or a circumstance that's unavoidable. But those targets are things that we continue to keep at the forefront, and are often our class sizes are below those targets.
Would it be possible to give some kind of, window, like some will not exceed? I mean, I know that there's a state sort of limit, but is it possible to put some numbers down to kind of clarify what those are? I know this is the regulation, so it can be adjusted, but just to give some specific guideline to what the target is?
Something like we wouldn't go over the state guidelines?
Well, I would hope we wouldn't go over the state guidelines, but I'm saying, the Lower Merion class target size for kindergarten 4, et cetera, like just to kind of set some expectation.
You can, but you can, or you could just do it annually in resolutions, or it's really, you have this conversation every year during budget, no matter what. So having a policy or an AR, it would guide a board in policy conversations, but it wouldn't bind them.
No, just for guidance, yeah. Not at all as a binding, point, but just to kind of keep a little bit of a North Star of here's what we hope to maintain.
You just want to be careful not to create any what looks to be like a unequivocal past practice or whatever in terms of bargaining. You don't want those class sizes to kind of creep into the collective bargaining sphere so that it becomes a grievance if
I
you
see.
go over them. That's just something to keep in mind.
I have to admit, that's where I fall on, I mean, leave it unsaid, and so it's annually, you can look at based upon, meet the need of the students and the facilities on an annual basis. So we have ways of dealing that have worked in the past. I don't,
Yeah, two other thoughts for this purpose of this conversation. Also, class size, like you have a lot of different types of classes that some need to be smaller, some may be able to be larger based on the facility or the type of class. So that would also be something we would have to think through, like what do we mean when we say class size guideline for what class? And also I think this is a conversation that Dr. Rinaldi would want to be kind of leading on or certainly present for. So certainly we'll take this back to him and talk about what that could look like given all those considerations.
Thank you. Just food for thought.
Yeah. No,
okay, so if we have no, do you, any questions from community, any online? Okay. So moving along, we're down to the for discussion part. And that would be
Yep.
policy AR 206?
well, we already actually took care of that.
Oh, yeah.
So
Oh,
we
that's right.
are,
That's on that all-encompassing one.
There are really one for discussion, and item C, in speaking with Dr. Minnelli, he would like to be a part of that,
Okay.
leading that conversation. So that would, I'd like to defer that one for
I'm sorry,
next
which one
month.
were you
The
referring
commercial
to?
advertising.
Oh, commercially, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll defer that one to next
Sure.
month. That's, again, not a time-sensitive
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah.
And in 713, one thing that we were discussing internally, haven't made a final recommendation on, but wanted to make the committee aware of adding an additional charge potentially for certain level users to add a security rate into the facility use guidelines. Because we are seeing, the potential need for that to be another, making sure we're covering that. While we have custodians in the building for all of our events, they're also charged with doing their, regular duties. So there are going to be times, and again, that's something we're fleshing out internally, of where we would require the user to also pay for security for the purposes of that event.
And
So
that would be just for outside people,
Yes.
not like an HSA.
it's only,
level bid.
like level
So-
C, D, and E
Yeah, the
users,
CD, yeah.
which are not your HSAs. things like
And I understand from like an HSA spirit, Rennie means we were bugging the custodians all the time for support and so I can see where if it's an outside entity and they're having a secure, it's needed sometimes.
Yeah, so that's, we'll come back with a recommendation. I just, again, sharing that this is something if you had any concerns about moving forward with that kind of charge, we'd want we'll want to know that, but we're proceeding with figuring out what that looks like and some general parameters of when we would require it, so we can share that out too.
What would that look like? Would it be just like our security, typical, like would we have our security guards at each building?
Yep.
Would it just be working with that company to have somebody come in on off hours?
Well, that's what we're working through internally, because we also have campus aides that provide security from time to
Okay.
time. So we need to think through like what that assignment would look like, and maybe it's different based on the needs of the event. So again, sort of where we are in the discussion, but we are moving forward with that. Absent any, if you said no, we would, okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
no, I think that's a good idea.
Can I just add one other suggestion? I'm sure you have, but just to put it out there, to consider what other districts are doing as well, like to kind of see what best practice is with regard to this kind of policy, because it seems like it could be helpful to see like, okay, here's what's typical and here's what's, suggestion.
Okay, so I don't think we have any more questions on that. Any questions? Okay. Are there any questions in the thing? No. So we have gone through our agenda. So I do have one thing that was asked. I was asked to read at the end of the person wanted to be here, and I was asked by our board president if I could read that. Just give me a second. Of course, I'm not prepared and have it up. Here it is. They had a question about the use of electrical scooters and those type of devices on the thing, and this is the event that, this is from Allison Barron, and she's Marion, her child goes to Marion Elementary. I'm not sure where she is in the district. And it's she writes, I'd like to see e-bikes and e-scooters added to the list of banned for school grounds under policies. And the content of it are e-scooters and bikes for motorized bikes and scooters allowed on LSD campuses. A child who is unfortunately not wearing a helmet nearly crashed today right next to my child biking with proper safety helmet at Marion today. The first child was going so fast. Additionally, her parent was going very fast on his own e-scooter. I understand everyone has busy schedules, but I want everyone to be safe. I do not think motorized scooters or bikes should be allowed. Does anyone know if there is a policy? I did reach out to our principal, and we'll see that what he says. By the way, there is currently legislation being proposed to ban e-scooters for children under 16. So I just want to put that into our record for today.
Okay. And I guess as an initial response to that, the 713 would be the policy or AR that encompasses sort of what is allowed on property. So it is something, if the policy committee would like, we can bring back the next time and add that to the list of items we either ban or allow on school property. So if that's your desire, we can certainly have that as a... Right, that part of it, I'll just bring back the fuller AR next time so we can look at other pieces of it. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we'll probably begin anew, start that process as we enter December with our Zero series. You'll see some of those start to move up again if that's the desire of the co-chairs, but that's all from administration.
Okay, so I think we've reached the end of it, and with bittersweet, I say thank you, everybody, for your time allowing me to be a co-chair of the policy committee, and this will be my last one as I leave. Thank you, everybody, again, and our next meeting will be at 9 a.m. again on December 5th, and we'll welcoming who will be replacing me. Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Thanks. And